Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Office Hours Live. Back to the Saturday time. We will return to the Thursday time, Thursday evening time next week. But I really wanted to get Diana YK Chan on the show because she is an interview expert. And I know so many people are stressing about interviews right now, especially with the way things have changed with COVID. So hopefully we'll get to talking about addressing nerves as well and tackling video interviews too. So I just want to give Diana an intro. Diana is a former recruiter turned career coach and interview coach and speaker, and she's the founder of My Marketability, and she is just such a pro in all things career, really great with interviewing as well. I refer all interview coaching clients to Diana because she just knows her stuff. She helps ambitious professionals and executives design the next chapter of their lives and navigate big changes in their careers and land great opportunities at a higher income. Who doesn't love more money, right? Her clients have been hired by like Amazon, Apple, Google, earning 5-6 figures more than what they were used to. Hello, that's amazing. So, and also Diana was named as one of the top 10 job search experts to follow on LinkedIn. So if you aren't following Diana on LinkedIn, make sure you do so. I've got her LinkedIn profile linked in the description of this video. All right, so let's welcome Diana and tackle. Oh, before I bring Diana in, Diana is also a good friend of mine. How could I forget the most important part? And we met at we were just figuring this out before we went live. We met at Discover Your Personal Brand in Toronto, which is a conference that was running for a few years. And yeah, and then our friendship grew from there. So without further ado, please welcome Diana YK Chan. Hello, Diana.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm really excited. I know our audience is really excited. This was a hot topic, and people were like clamoring to sign up for it. So yeah, I can see people just continuing to filter in, and we've already got some hellos. Dolores says, "Afternoon, ladies." Nola says, "Hey, Kamara, 2 days in a row." Well, yes, and Diana, what number speaking event is this for you?
Fourth talk in 4 days.
Fourth talk in 4 days.
Yes.
Wow, this is my third talk in 4 days or 5 days. It's been a big week.
It's been a big week.
Yeah. So anything that I missed in the intro? I feel I know you well, but maybe I missed something. Anything that I didn't cover that people should know about you?
I mean, besides, I guess, for me, I'm so passionate about helping people. And I just, for me, what just gets me excited is just really seeing people thrive, like be more confident, do what they love. Like, I just love that. And on a personal side, I guess for me, like I'm a mom of two kids who are 3 and 5, and they keep me busy. And so just this whole work-life balance thing, I gotta have that under control as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I would say right now, I've been really busy right now, in terms of helping clients with interview prep. It's been a really busy time. Typically August is like my slowest month in my business, but I've been really busy helping people prepare interviews. So I'm so glad we're talking about this topic because I have so many great practical advice and stories to share today.
Oh, that's great. I can't wait to hear some of those stories. And really, like we were talking about before we went live, this session is about interview questions mostly, not general interview advice, but really digging in deep into the questions that are asked during interviews. So questions about questions.
Yes.
Question inception. So let's jump right in. So what would you say these days, especially with going over to video interviewing as well, what would you say these days are the biggest questions that people need to prepare for when it comes to interviews?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I dive into that, I want to set the context of why is it so important to have interviews or job interviews? At the end of the day, from an employer's perspective, they are trying to assess whether you're the best fit for to hire, right? Whether you're the best ROI. And from the candidate's perspective, your job is to really promote and pitch yourself to persuade the employer that you're the one. So that's an important perspective to go in. Even though you're going as a conversation, you need to sell yourself. And most people are not comfortable in selling themselves. And when we think about questions, we need to first of all really understand the job itself. Most of the times, I would say, I spend a lot of time actually with my clients before we dive into the questions itself, is to really dissect the role.
Oh, smart.
Really dissect it. Why is this role open? What are the common challenges in this role? What are the problems you need to solve? When you can really understand that and what are the core competencies, it's going to then help you think about the question itself. I can still cover like the standard questions, but when you actually first take the step of understanding the job, that's when you're really getting into their head. That's when you're able to really connect the dots. One of the techniques I love to use is connecting the dots there. So from a question standpoint, there's a typical motivational questions. Right? The purpose of motivational questions is to really understand what drives you, what motivates you, right? What's important to you. Then the typical behavioral questions, which is for the interviewers to really understand your past performance and behavior to help predict your future performance to assess fit. And then there's the third type of question, which is more that scenario situational question, like what would you do if this happened? So something that they can think of like on the job, like how would you tackle that? So more future thinking there. And then there could be like, I've seen like helping clients with case study questions where they have to put together a case and analyze it and pitch it to the interviewers. So those are the four categories, and we can elaborate further the type of questions as well.
Yeah, wow. So there's a lot that we got to think about before we step into an interview, and a lot we got to prepare. So in my opinion, you can never be too prepared for an interview. Do you agree?
I agree. There's so many variation of questions, but there's definitely what I consider that set that you could take into different direction as well. You can honestly, I would say the key to success is definitely preparation. Prior planning prevents poor performance, or prior preparation prevents poor performance.
Right. Absolutely. So maybe let's talk about, I know that job seekers really get annoyed by questions like, what's your greatest weakness? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What else is it? Why should we hire you? So obviously, as you've explained, those are really giving the interviewer an idea of fit. So there's a method to that madness, right?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. I think that, a big part of it is showcasing your self-awareness. How well do you know yourself?
Right.
And when you can showcase that you know yourself, but also be confident in articulating who you are and what you have to offer, you come across more persuasive, right? So a big piece is actually that self-awareness there.
That makes so much sense. So maybe let's talk about motivational questions. So what would be an example of a very common motivational type of question?
Yes. Yeah. So the typical ones, the motivational questions that you need to nail is, why this company, why this role, why you, why are you looking to make a change?
Got it.
And then another one could be, why did you leave this company, or why you're looking to leave? Or why did you join that company? All these questions is really trying to understand your intent, your motivation, your drive. And I want to point out one here. There's a difference between why this company and why this role versus why you. A lot of people get it wrong. I'll tell you this, like in my practice. So I just want to give some tips here.
For sure.
Why this company and why this role is to be able to showcase why you like them. Why you like this company in particular. So you want to showcase you've done your research. You want to showcase that you've learned about them, and you want to highlight that and what you admire about them. Similar to the role, why do you actually like this role? Like, what is it about the responsibilities that you like? A lot of times people just get into, well, because I have experience in this, but you really want to talk about how, hey, I really like the fact that I get to spend majority of my time, doing analysis, or I get to spend majority of time collaborating with people. Get clear on that, because that's going to showcase you understand the job and you understand what it takes to succeed. Okay. So that's really important distinction there. Why you is more pitch, where you're really trying to pitch yourself. Why are you the best one to hire? And I would argue throughout the entire interview, you are basically trying to build a case of why you throughout. Right? But at the end of the day, you need to be able to pitch yourself of why you. And I would say one of the techniques I love to use in motivational questions is really the power of threes. Most people don't do it. And it's really just to help you be more clear and concise and succinct as well. So if you can think of 3 core reasons of why you're interested in joining this company or this role and why they should hire you, and then you think of how you can then define what that means and elaborate it and tell a story, it becomes very compelling.
Excellent. So what would be an example of like a bad answer to why me? What have you heard in your travels as a recruiter?
What would be that answer? So more the generic one was usually be like, well, I have these skills and experience, or I have everything that you're looking for. I know I can do the job. Let's just say I have everything. I know I can do a job. I have everything that you're looking for. I meet all your qualifications. Just saying that is not enough. Okay, it's very fluffy, right? It's you know it's too fluffy, right? So you got to really dig deeper. Like, what do you mean by that? You have all the qualifications. What do you mean by that? You know you can do the job. I get this all the time. Everyone's like, I know I can do the job, but they just give me a chance. Right?
Yes.
But really, you got to convince the buyer, the employer, of why. And so you got to really think about what's really important to them. Like, do they need someone to fix X, Y, Z? And you got to be like, I can help you fix that in no time. And I can help you fix that in no time and help you make double the amount of money.
Oh yeah, that's compelling.
That's compelling, right?
Yeah.
Or I can save you this amount of time so that we can process more transactions like online, like with, let's say, e-commerce purchases, right? We can fix this bot. Like, if you can tell them that you have this expertise to help them with that, then they're going to buy into it.
So it sounds like super specific, you know, like reinforce your own skill set and make it resonate with I love what you said, the buyer.
Yes.
Because that's really what it comes down to, in my opinion as well, is that you are selling yourself as a service provider of one, and you're convincing someone to pay your fee, so to speak, your salary. And
you're the product, right? You're the product. Why would an employer pay $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 for this job? And so one of this common saying in sales is features tell, benefits sell, right? Features are your skills, your experience, your strengths. It's like the features there. The benefits is the so what, which is really the marketing sound bites. And most people don't think of the benefits. But when you think of the benefits and you're going to articulate that, you're actually getting into the employer's head.
Yes, that makes so much sense. And that goes back to that example you gave of if we like, I can help you optimize blah process so that we can double the sales or triple the sales or make transactions happen more efficiently. That's the so what, right?
That's the so what. I was working with another client the other day. She said, oh, I'm really good with building teams. I'm like, okay, that's good. Building teams is like one of your core strengths. So one thing I, challenge her further, like, what does that mean? The fact that you're good at building teams, does that mean that you can outperform your competition? Because she's in sales. Does that mean that you can build great teams in like underperforming markets, or that you build award-winning teams, or whatever that is? Like, you just have to give some like more context to that. Like, what does that mean that you can build great teams? It has to tie back into some sort of performance.
For sure. That makes so much sense. So we've covered some motivational questions. How about this question always gets me. What is your greatest weakness? And I think this one is the most annoying to most job seekers.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm supposed to, and I love how, like, it makes me laugh when people spin it as like, well, my greatest weakness is actually a strength. So I work too, like Michael Scott, I work too hard. I take my work too seriously. So what is a good way to approach that one question?
Yeah, this is a good one. Everyone always asks me this one all the time. So first of all, this question is not meant to trick you. Okay, it is meant to really see if you understand yourself, is to really see whether you understand your strengths and weaknesses, your blind spots, right? That's what it really is. That's all it is. So don't feel that, it's meant to trick you there. I usually like to think of, the way you tackle this, obviously you don't want to answer it in a way that's going to be like a red flag to an employer, meaning that it's like the job requires you to be very attention to detail, and you tell them that you're actually not, you lack attention to detail. That's pretty much a no-go, right?
Don't incriminate yourself.
Yeah, like you don't want to highlight that. So I like to usually think about, how sometimes when we use our greatest strengths could also be our greatest weakness, meaning if you think of the flip side of it, if you use it too much, how it could backfire.
Okay.
Right? So as an example of, like for me, like one of my greatest strength is I'm a maximizer, meaning I have a very high standard of excellence. And when I use that too much, that could mean that it could make me feel that, that they don't want to come to me until they have like the best, solution, for example, or until they have that completed version to share with me. Right. So what you want to do is you want to think about like, what are the implications, like how that weakness is, and what do you do about it? So you can say, I'm aware of this. And as a result, what I've been doing is to make sure that, that I set time to check in with my colleagues every week and to let them know, to track our progress and give them acknowledgement as well. So it's showcasing that you are self-aware, that you're also doing something about it, and how you're making improvements.
That's great. That's great. How about the question? I guess, so we've talked about motivational, behavioral, future-based questions. So the where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, what are employers really looking for in that question?
Yeah, I mean, they're not necessarily looking that you need to know the exact answer. Like no one really knows where we're going to be in 5 years. However, it's going back to self-awareness, meaning what you're going for, the opportunity, does it actually align with where you're heading? Right. So if you can maybe tie back how this opportunity is in alignment with essentially your career goal, that let's just say you are looking to move up, like to develop your skills so that you work your way up to become like a manager, you want to talk about how that aligns to your career goals as well. Right. So you want to talk about aspirations. Sometimes they are really, at the end, they're trying to see if it's a fit. Right. So for example, let's say you're looking to start in 5 years, you're going to look to start your own business as an example. And this job, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud right now. There's a job they're looking to have someone that they're trying to groom someone to be the next executive leader, for example. Saying that would probably not be the best answer. Right? Because they're like, okay, well, like, your intention is to start your own business. So, does that make sense for us to invest in you?
Probably not.
Right? So part of it's also assessing like that flight risk as well. Like, is there alignment? Like, is there actually a good fit there?
That makes sense. Like, how safe are we to be fair? That I want to start my own business example aside, but like, let's say we really want to use the job for which we're applying as a stepping stone to maybe make a bit of a pivot. Like, how safe are we to be really transparent about our own goals when answering that question?
Yeah, I mean, you still want to be authentic and sincere. I think this goes back to, at the end of the day, you're selling yourself and it's marketing messaging, right? Like if someone's looking to make a pivot, for example, right? Or let's just say if someone's looking to make a change from sales to product, for example, right? And why are you interested in this role, or where do you see yourself? You do want to then talk about like why what you want is working towards this product manager goal, right? Where you see yourself, right? But if you talk about how, well, I just want to get this knowledge as a product manager, but then I plan on moving back to sales in a couple years, that may not be the best answer.
Yeah, I guess how would that make sense to the hiring manager or the recruiter?
Yeah,
like make that shift back. I mean, I guess there could be a spin of some sort, like getting more product knowledge to be a better salesperson. Would that be compelling?
Yeah. So what could be, so how you can maybe build a case. So for example, if someone's goal is to broaden their skill set and broaden their expertise within, let's say, an industry, you can talk about how you were trying to round out your skill set. Right. So for example, if someone has the ambition to become an executive and having a broad business view, let's say working in sales and operations and marketing is actually going to help them. Like, you can talk about how, based on my research in talking to like my mentors, I've been advised that it's good to get that broad perspective. Right. So if you can build that case and showcase you're ambitious and this is part of your goal, then that would make sense.
Got it. Yeah, that does make sense. That does make sense. Got it. Okay. Actually, we have a question that just came in from William. Let's see here. What is your weakness? Is it a good idea to also say that we are trying to improve a skill? I guess that kind of goes back to what we were talking about without incriminating ourselves, right? Is it safe to say that we're trying to improve a certain skill?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can, part of what I'm hearing, like, you're not strong at PowerPoint, so therefore you are, taking these classes to help you improve with that. Or another way to look at it is, I'll give an example. I had another client recently. She's looking to make a career pivot from corporate to become a librarian. And one of the criteria was to have financial management experience. Okay. And in her role, a lot of what things she's done is more around analysis, research, collaboration, not as much like the hardcore, let's say, financial management. So that could be perceived as a weakness as well, meaning like lack of expertise in that area, right? So the way she could overcome it was actually part of a question, was talking about how she's actually taking a class to learn more about this area, specifically in that space as well. And then she talked about how, like, in her own personal life, of how, like, she manages her family budget, for example, to build in that as well. And so just to showcase that you're self-aware, know that, that could be something that may be a perceived weakness. However, what are you doing about it? Right.
That makes sense.
So I think another way to look at it is there's a difference, but there's the character, or the, what do you call it? The weakness versus also the experience type of weakness that you can think about.
Okay. Got it. So, well, speaking of experience weakness or lacking experience, this past week and week prior, I joined up with Dr. Kelly Waltman, and we talked about leadership and moving into leadership without a title, or without leadership experience or formal leadership experience. Let's say someone is applying for a manager role. They've never been a manager before. They managed to land an interview for this manager role. I'm guessing the interviewer is going to ask about the lack of leadership experience, right?
For sure. Absolutely. Okay. Well, absolutely. I would say anytime if you're going for a role that requires managing people, from my experience as a recruiter, there is definitely a preference that you've had at least a few years of managing people, right? So if you don't have that, then you need to think about times when you led teams, meaning like if you're managing like large size teams, that is considered leadership as well. So you need to somehow spin it to connect the dots that way. And you need to be able to tie it back into, it is really going back to soft skills. To me, at the end of the day, is you're showcasing potential. When you don't have, let's say that experience under your belt of, let's say, managing people, you need to showcase how you're a great communicator, you're a great influencer, you're great with relationship building, you're passionate about developing people. You need to talk about that. You want to talk about how outside of work, I don't know, that, people come to you for like mentoring support, whatever that looks like. You need to build a case to showcase that you are ready, the readiness for that. Okay?
Yes.
It's quite common. Actually, I just had a client right now who pretty senior already. She's already at the VP level at a big bank. And she's looking to get to the next level, that next level within, the same company, same team as well. And so the question is, which that's considered that next executive level, from a VP to, SVP or EVP, like that next level here. And one thing we really talked about is, once you get to that, really think about now, it's not about experience. It's really thinking about how will you lead your teams, like who used to be maybe your peers, people who are your peers, who would become now people that would need to report to you. How would you actually lead them and influence them? And what's that next level of executive presence that you need to step into as well? So you want to be able to talk about that.
Ooh, that's such a good topic. So did you guys work together to kind of land on a great answer for that?
Yeah. So we talked more about Strategy. There's
Okay.
actually a study done by Harvard that you actually have more credibility when you talk about strategy or being strategic.
Oh,
So
really?
so we really talked about like, well, let's really dive into the role. Like what are the challenges? Because like of this role, right? Because she had like insights already. Like what are the challenges?
Right.
She even had insights who her competitors are. It was all like about internal, really global candidates, and we're like really dissecting like, what does she bring to the table? What do these other people bring to the table? What's happening at the company right now? What are the challenges of what's actually happening? And what's critical to success? And what's her plan? So then it's less about just saying like, hey, I have this experience, but I actually have a plan of how I want to actually take the team to the next level.
That's great. So that would really like cover off a lot of the potential concerns with making that peer to leader transition, of how, just being so clear on what you want to do with the team and or where you want to take the team. I think that would cover off so many concerns that the interviewers might have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually see with a lot of my senior clients, I'm talking executive level clients, a lot of times to seal the deal, usually the final round will have some sort of 30, 60, 90-day plan. Putting together a pitch deck, pitch presentation, whatever that looks like. It's really showcasing that strategic thinking, like long-term thinking. It's like basically almost like a test. If we were hiring you, what would you actually do? Not just like, this is my experience, but like, what would you do if we hired you?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And how much time are they given to prepare such a presentation typically?
It depends. Usually within that week, within that
Okay.
week to prepare something. A lot of times people are stressed about it, of a 30,
Sure.
60, 90-day plan. It's everyone is different, but you really need to think about like, what do you really want to achieve in those first 90 days? But really also understand like, what are the company's objectives, right? Like what's urgent and what's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How about, let's take it to the other end of the career, entry level, no experience. So new grads, and you've worked with a lot of new grads.
Yeah.
You've worked with a lot of students. So obvious, they're probably not going to be talking about strategy in their interviews, but what do you think entry level folks really need to focus on in order to make a compelling case to, be given their first job, really?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So when you don't have experience, the way you shine is really through showcasing your potential and your personality. Right? It's who you are, what they see in you. Like they're making a bet on you that, are you coachable? Are you trainable? Are you a curious learner? Are you hungry for growth? Those are things that they're looking for. They want to understand, like, what do you do outside? I'm thinking new grads right now. Like, what else do you do besides like the academics? Are you volunteering? Are you working part-time? Are you doing extracurricular? Because that's all leadership skills. Communication skills, collaboration skills, all tie into there. Okay. Yeah. So you just have to build a case to showcase that. I love it when people tell me that, that they were in school full time and they also had like a part-time job.
Yes.
Because that already shows me that they had to be responsible. They had to, have good time management skills as well to manage the workload. I love that. Right. Yeah. Like just you want to talk about that and you want to talk about the challenges and how you're able to maybe maintain your grades while being, while working as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that too. When I'm working with a resume for an early career professional and that they have all these different balls in the air that they're juggling. I love that too. It's the ideal scenario. How about for someone who doesn't have a part-time job, didn't volunteer, had the luxury of being, mono-focused on school?
Yeah.
What would you showcase there?
You got to be really good at networking to really start building relationships as well. Like if you haven't done, I think this is where it's like, how can I increase my marketability, the visibility, and showcase that potential, right? Like you have to be willing to put yourself out there to stand out, right? If you don't have that, it's just like, what can I do? This is like a great example. I'm just thinking like, because back when I was recruiting, at Google as well, like I would get so many people reach out to me. And, one of the things it's so important. It's like when we think about differentiation, it's like, what are you willing to do in terms of above and beyond to showcase that you are a great talent, right?
Right.
So if for example, if all you've been doing, let's just say like in school, then you're going to start thinking about now, like, what can I start doing more of? Right? What do I care about? Like, is there an organization you can volunteer or do something like, charity related, whatever that is, for example, whatever that is, to just get involved, right?
Yeah.
And through that, you're going to meet people. You're going to meet people or take on some, I don't know, pro bono work as well. But that's a great way to build some skill set, to get to some testimonials as well.
Yes.
Like, for example, like this summer, I had a new grad who came to help me out, and she was very passionate about event planning, marketing. She showed up at my events. I actually saw the potential in her. Like, she did come to me for an opportunity. I actually reached out to her.
Oh, wow.
And the way she stood out was she participated in my webinars. She participated in my webinars, asking good questions. The way she presented herself came across as very professional, very respectful. I really like that in my small events. So I actually reached out to her and asked her, like, hey, would you be interested in like a short-term like internship with me, and I'll coach you and I'll advise you and I'll introduce you to people in my network. I rarely do that, to be honest. I actually rarely do that. But because I saw the potential in someone and I needed help as well, that it was like a win-win.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I actually gave a talk to upcoming or new grads on Wednesday, I think it was. And I noticed they all had really good questions too. Like there's something about the younger folks, they're just so hungry for information, really. And it's so cool when they're asking like really thoughtful questions, and it does stand out. Like I noticed it every time with every question. I absolutely love it. So where's your intern now?
She just started a new job.
Yay!
In sales. Yeah.
Wow.
She started a new job in sales. Yeah, just through networking. Yeah. And she actually got an opportunity elsewhere as well, like 2 offers.
Oh, way to go. That's awesome.
So proud of her. So
congrats to her.
This is what's exciting. I think this is part of, I'm sure there are people here. I want to hear some, I'm actually curious, like, what professions people are in, or if there are people out there who have been interviewing and not closing. Maybe we can talk about that too, like, who are getting rejections, like, what does that mean? And so I would say if you are getting interviews already, that means that your resume is working, or your LinkedIn profile is working, right? Or that you have, the skill set or experience that employers are looking for. Okay, so that's a good sign, right? Meaning that you're getting interviews. But if you've been interviewing, let's just say a dozen opportunities, like even even 5 opportunities, and you're not moving forward, usually it's got to do with some sort of the communication skills, your confidence, your ability to convince and persuade. Okay. It's usually around that. And from my experience, it only requires a couple sessions and it can make a huge difference. Okay. So I'll give an example. I've been doing so many interview coaching, like in last week or a couple of weeks ago, I was meeting with a client for an interview session. And, what the one thing that I mentioned to him is that he comes across as very robotic, very boring.
Okay.
Very boring, like flat energy. And like, meaning like just flat energy.
Okay.
And he's like, Diana, I'm an engineer. I'm like, well, I know you're an engineer, but you could still be interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And for me, like, I speak my truth, because my intention is I want to help the person to grow, right? Because if this person is already got like dozens of interviews and not moving forward, I know it's got to do with the way they're coming across is not interesting enough to move forward, right? And so for those who are, let's say you are an introvert, or you tell me you're an engineer, or you don't like to talk to people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, in an interview, you still need to showcase interest. And especially on camera now, you're not in person anymore.
Yeah.
You actually need to amplify your energy more.
Yes. I've noticed that.
You need to amplify that more. So your eye contact, facial expression, smiling, so many just little things. I tell my clients, smile when you're talking. I actually have this Post-it note. Happy face. I'll tell my clients when they're doing mock interviews. I'm like, smile,
oh, that's cute.
look at the camera. you know, little things like that increases that trust factor, the likability factor, right?
Yes.
And it make a huge difference.
Yes.
Huge difference, that connection. And so when you think about it, like there's 4 reasons I usually talk about why people get rejected. And this also from experience, having done so many interviews as well, is there's usually either that lack of connection, which is that rapport building, the relationship, that the warmth factor that's missing, or the lack of confidence, right? In terms of believing that you have something great to offer or be able to be persuasive. The third is lack of clear communication. From my experience, if you have not gone for an interview in a while, most of the time you're probably sounding a bit rusty there.
Right.
And you definitely need some sort of practicing. I remember I had an SVP client a couple of years ago. She was the same company for 20 years. And she had an interview with the CEO of a big company. And we practiced her "tell me about yourself" question. It was not good. It was not good. It was it wasn't good at all. And she recognized that. But once I taught her the framework and all that, it made a huge difference. And my point is, if you haven't had to go through interviews or if you always got opportunities through internal promotions, you definitely need to practice. Okay. So that clear communication, because most people will ramble. And the last one is lack of compelling examples, the proof, the evidence of support. Okay, so those are the 4 reasons there from my experience.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And we've got some notes in the chat here. So Adriana mentioned she's a recent grad in engineering looking for a technical job for which she doesn't have experience. No interviews so far. So what might be your advice in that case? Sounds potentially a resume problem.
Yeah, so I agree. If you get no interviews so far, it could be probably a resume issue or a LinkedIn profile issue there. Maybe not highlighting in terms of the skills that the employer is looking for if you're not getting interviews.
Yeah, I agree. And Linda says, I'm a senior financial executive who specializes in the nonprofit sector. I've been getting interviews, sometimes 2 and 3 rounds, but no offers. What do you think might be going on there?
So if you are going through the 2nd and or even 3rd round, which to me is probably around the final round, and not the offer, it could be, I know this is where I need to totally talk to candidate, but usually it's probably your case is not compelling enough in terms of your story. It's not usually compelling enough embedded in the case. And so what I mean by that is it's looking at your overall narrative of how you're really telling your story. What are the 3 key points you're really trying to hone in and over again? And actually also showcasing that it's not just saying that I can do the job, but also showcasing what would you do for them as well. But I would argue, if I had to think about it, 93% of your message impact is based on nonverbal. Only 7% is based on words. From my experience, most people do not practice enough on the delivery.
Interesting.
So you may have great content, but the way you're presenting yourself is not resonating.
And I guess that really goes back to your example of your engineering client who was very monotone and typical engineer, but not really. There's no typical engineer, but I'm an engineer, so I'm flat. I guess that shows you his delivery wasn't so good, but he might have had some really amazing
experience, really good experience. Yeah. I actually have another engineering example. Someone who's actually at VP of engineering, who actually was extrovert, who loves talking to people, amazing connector, really amazing experience in building teams of hundreds of people, in tech startups. And he was getting tons of interviews, but not closing.
Oh, what was the problem?
Getting tons of interviews. So soft skills is good. Okay. Soft skills is really good. Great. Okay. I've got that covered. And so when he got this big opportunity with Amazon, he reached out to me. He's like, Diana, I've been getting tons of interviews, but I'm not closing. I'm usually one of the final candidates. And so the problem with him was he talked too much.
He talked too much.
Too much and too long-winded. and rambled too much, went off topic.
Oh.
So my job with him and one of my technique was really all about bottom lining, getting very clear, very concise with his messaging.
I love that.
And with Amazon, like the interviews are very, what's the word?
Rigorous, for sure.
Rigorous, yes,
Yeah.
rigorous, like really rigorous. Like you got to know the 14 leadership principles,
Yes.
all that, right?
Yeah.
Like we literally had practice every single question for each principle there.
Yeah.
But I had to get him to bottom line it.
Mm-hmm.
His resume was like at least 3 pages long. I remember it was like 5 or so. It was actually pretty long already. So already, like his problem was more like being just too long-winded. And so for me, I'm like, bottom line it. Yeah. What's the soundbite? What's the headline? I kept pushing for that. And really, literally, like 2 sessions, he got the offer. Had a 6-figure salary increase.
What?
One of my proudest accomplishments. Yeah.
That's
6-figure, over 100,000 salary increase.
Way to go. That's incredible.
Yeah. And he recently messaged me, texted me, because now he's on the other end. He's interviewing a lot of people there at Amazon. Yeah. And he said to me, he's like, Diana, I realize now why it's so important, like that I pushed him to be more concise.
Right.
The reason being is that the interviewers need to take good notes. So if you can't communicate in a way that makes it easy for interviewers to take effective notes, they can't give you an effective score to move you forward.
Right. So probably their note taking was like, and then it's like,
yeah.
And they have to cross out everything because he's going off on tangents. Yeah. So leaving them confused, in other words.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this is why what I teach is using frameworks, right? The power of 3s for motivational questions. So that if you say 3 reasons why you should hire me, instantly you are training the interviewer like 1, 2, 3.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Instantly, you're training them.
Yeah. That's wow. I love that. That makes it so simple. And like you're saying, it primes the interviewer to listen to it in a certain way, and they're ready. Yeah. Okay, so we got 1. Okay, ready. What's number 2? Okay, 3. Yep. And then they've got this perfect parcel of very compelling examples. So I love that.
Yeah, it just helps them take better notes. And so when they call the word, like, oh yeah, they gave me really clear answers, really compelling. They build the case, right? Yes. And so similar to behavioral questions, a lot of times people spend too much time on the story, the context, which as an interviewer, they're like, okay, well, what's the point here? Right? Like, what are you trying to tell me here? And what's more important is you need to spend time on the action of what did you do, right? You want to spend about 10, 20% of the time on setting up the context. So I don't know if people are familiar with the CAR model or STAR model, right? Or I like to call it the CARS model. I like to use 3. So like CAR, context, action, result. Yeah. S is like the so what, like connecting the dots. Right. So if I walk this through here, context is setting the stage of the significance of the work, the challenge, what was your mission, right? And you got to like literally bottom line and give like a headline statement.
Sure.
Right?
That makes sense.
Spend too much time on that. And then the action is you want to walk through, 3 to 5 specific steps. And the way I like to think about it is think of the milestones. So for example, step 1 was to assess the situation. And then you elaborate what that means, right? Step 2 was to come up with a plan. And then you elaborate what that looks like. And then step 3 was to track the progress. I'm making it up here. But my point is by doing that, you are training the interviewer to take that headline statement and they're going to listen to you. Right. And then you get the conclusion of the outcome of this was, and they're literally going to write like outcome, and then they're going to like put that point down. Okay. And then conclude. A lot of people don't conclude well. Okay. So you got to think about the conclusion, which is the so what, the S, the so what here, meaning you conclude it back to the role itself, like in terms of the key lesson learned, or how has this help you become a better professional in your field, or what would you do differently, or how would this benefit you with this role that you're going after? Right. That's the so what piece. Most people don't do that. But when you do that, you are telling the interviewer that you understand this job and you understand what it takes to be successful. Yes. Make it make sense in their world, essentially. Yes. Yeah. Like paint the picture, like literally tell them, I understand. I can help you here.
I get you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because I have seen in my years as a recruiter, I have seen people who got rejected, but I was able to build a case to get them hired.
Oh, really?
And
how do you do
so
that? Mm-hmm.
it's building a case. It
Yeah.
literally is building a case. And it's like helping people see things from a different angle,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's highlighting more of your assets
Mm-hmm.
versus the concerns, the perceived concerns.
Right. Right. Right.
Right. And I had that where I would fight for the candidate because I really believed in them. And I just had to bring out, okay, tell me a little bit more extra of this that I can build a case to get you hired here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you maybe my own personal example.
Yeah.
One I share quite often is when I was leaving Google, I interviewed with LinkedIn for a relationship manager role, which is sales.
Okay.
And my background is not a typical sales background. I come from operations, marketing, consulting, and recruiting.
Right.
Not the typical salesperson. Okay.
Right.
And I got to the round of meeting, like the final round, the managing director, like the big boss of Canada.
Yep.
And the recruiter told me the main concern they have about my background is I don't come from a typical sales background. I've never carried a big quota. I've never sold a software.
Okay.
Which is true, right? So I understood my perceived concerns, right? So for those that you want to understand what the perceived concerns, and then I basically need to think of how do I build a case? How do I convince them, despite I don't have the traditional sales experience, I don't have software experience, that I can still be a successful relationship manager? So essentially, I changed the narrative. I changed the narrative of how my story of working in recruiting. I'm selling talent. I'm selling opportunities. Yeah. And I talked about my experience recruiting for executive MBA program. I was selling $100,000 program to executives.
Yeah. Right.
And so instead of saying I recruited 120 people, I would say I helped the school generate over $10 million.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Right. And I would talk about how I understood the product of LinkedIn because as a recruiter, I was the user.
You were the user.
I use the
Brilliant.
product every day in and out. So I
Yep.
know how to have the conversations with HR and recruitment because I was one of them.
Yes.
Yeah. So I had to talk about that.
Yep.
That's what build a case. So you got to really think about, right? Like what matters to them, right? It's like, well, have you actually sold? I'm like, oh yeah, I actually have sold. Like I've generated over $110 million for a school.
Yeah.
And I've actually worked with executives. Like, have you worked with executives? Yeah, absolutely. I've worked with tons of executives in various industries.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So this is where the confidence comes in. Like I know it's really hard, but this is where you have to change your perspective. Because if you don't do that, they're not going to believe in you.
Right. You have to believe in yourself first.
You got to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
You got to believe it. And then you got to be like, convince them. They're like, okay.
Yes. Yes. I'm buying what you're selling.
Exactly. I'm buying what you're selling. Right?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's such a great story. We have a feew questions that I want to ask you, and then I wanted to talk to you about managing nerves during an interview. So Dolores mentioned, when going back to when you were talking about being high energy, she said she had the opposite experience 4 years ago. She was told she had the energy, but they always went with someone else for these two different jobs that she interviewed for, where she got that same feedback. She's saying, is that code for something?
Is that code for something? I'm not sure what kind of job we're going for, but you reminded me of another client who was going for an executive director role many years ago, and she had amazing energy. Amazing energy, really great communicator as well. And one of the things we really worked on for her was it was also around the executive presence in terms of commanding, because she also worked in an environment that was very male dominated. So working on that credibility piece and the present piece. Right. And it came down to also speaking with more, what's that word? Authoritative. Okay. So instead of having that high energy pitch tone, we're having a deeper tone of voice, speaking slower, and having shorter sentences. Right. I don't know about your situation, but that's something, I worked with her and that really helped her. It helped her get the job, but also like dramatically increase her salary by double as well.
Amazing.
And this is like it's being that self-aware, but also being open to feedback. Like a lot of times employers not going to tell you the truth. Like, they just don't tell you. But if you work with like a coach who could be honest with you and really help you with that, it can really make the difference there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's really the key, is working with somebody to get that feedback. Because like going back to your previous point, if you're in an interview, your resume is probably working for you. So we can scratch that off the list of being a potential problem. but if you're not closing the deal, there's something there. If you're consistently not closing the deal, there's something there, and it's really worth getting a third party expert opinion from you or people in your profession. Sorry.
And I could tell you, if you are getting those rejections, most likely it's already impacting your confidence, right?
Yeah.
So your confidence level is definitely low.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a client who was getting interviews but not closing, and I knew it impacted his confidence. I asked him, like, what's your mindset going into the interview? And he told me it was, for them to find out what's wrong with me.
Oh,
that was his mindset. I'm like, you got to shift that mindset. You have to change that mindset. Because like, what's wrong with me versus like, what's amazing about me?
Oh no. Yeah.
Honestly, as soon as we change that perspective, he got a job offer.
Oh, fantastic.
Like, that's what we need to do, is really work on the mindset. I had another client literally this other day. He's been getting interviews, not closing, but I know he's pretty marketable because he's marketable because of working in the space that he's in, like in digital marketing, and been pretty bummed out, getting interviews, not closing. And one of the techniques I worked with him was really getting into that peak experience moment thing. Like, think of a peak experience moment, a time when you just felt at your best.
Yep.
And for him, it was, recently got married. And I was like, great, right? I was just getting him to talk about that. And like, as he was describing it, I was like, amazing. I can feel that. And he sounded already naturally more positive, more exciting. And I was like, that's the perspective I want you to go in to tomorrow's interview.
That's awesome. And he kept it?
Yeah, he kept it. It wasn't practically more answer because we've been doing that. But because, it was more that confidence, and we got to get in that right state that like, okay, I'm bringing my best. I'm bringing my A game.
Yeah. Yeah. That,
right? Like, what does it take to win? And we even talked about, I don't know, somehow I brought up, the Raptors, like last year, like winning the champions the championship. And I was like, think about them. What does it take for them to win? Right? How the challenge and the battles, like, what do you constantly need to do to elevate your game for every single game? Think about that mindset. Think about that. And think about what you need to do. The constant practicing, right? Constant can-do attitude, whatever it takes.
Yes.
That's the energy and mindset you need to bring for every interview.
So people are buying what you're selling.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. If you're just going to be showing up like, another interview. Can you just give me a job?
Yeah.
I just need a job.
Yeah. Well, to that point, just needing a job, Nigel has a good question where he said, for those who've been unemployed for a long time, is there anything that they can really do to overcome the unemployment concern that interviewers are going to have?
Yeah. I've worked with a lot of clients who've been unemployed for a year, 2 years, even 5 years. Okay. And the key here is it's going back to storytelling. You don't talk about what have you been doing during this time. Right. And it doesn't have to be necessarily significant. It could be your interest, or if it's, say, you're taking care of someone in the family, like, so I've had people like who had to take a couple of years off to take care of family, and that could showcase a lot of resiliency, strength as well. I recently, like literally this week, I had a client so proud of, she's had her own business for 10 years. And she decided to leave corporate 10 years ago because of taking care of her family, who were sick, and also taking care of her child. And finally, like, this year she decided she needed to get a full-time job for more stability there. And so when you think about that, employer may think that's a 10-year gap, right? Meaning like that you worked in corporate over 10 years ago. But obviously she's had her own like marketing agency and her own clients and as well. And for me, it was like, okay, how do we position that? How have you still kept your skills updated? Okay. What have you been doing to grow, right? In terms of constant learning and growing. So she showed up to like all my webinars and events, and we did coaching and at the end of the day, it was interesting. We had this interview coaching session just a month ago. One of the things we had to overcome was that her discomfort in talking about herself or bragging about herself.
It's a tough one to get over.
Right? Seeing her own value. And so big part for me, it is giving people that courage of, okay, this is what's great about you. These are the things we want to highlight. And it's like, just needed that empowerment, encouragement, literally that empowerment, encouragement. And she more than doubled her salary,
Oh, wow.
2.5x her salary.
Wow. That's amazing. You have a lot of great stories. Doubling salary or getting more.
Crazy,
Yeah.
2.5x. And it's just like, for her, it's life-changing because, and so to me, like, I don't know where I'm getting at is that you got to start somewhere, right? Meaning that if you've been, let's say, unemployed for a long time, you got to do something.
Yeah.
Right? Just trying to do it on your own, like, oh, it's not going to be enough. Like, go talk to your friends, go talk to someone, get that support, right? If you can't afford getting a coach, use the free resources. I have tons of free resources on my YouTube channel as well on LinkedIn. Take advantage of those, right?
Yes.
Get a friend to help you practice whatever you need to do, right?
Yes.
As long as you have that learning attitude that you want to grow and improve, people will see that. They'll feel that. And they'll want to help you.
That's great advice. And Diana's YouTube channel is linked in the description below. Her LinkedIn is linked in the description below of this video. So definitely connect with her and subscribe to her channel. I want to be cognizant of the time. We've only got 5 minutes left. Wanted to check in with you to see if there was anything else you wanted to say around managing nerves. So we've talked about going in with the right energy for the interview. What was something else you wanted to mention about managing the nerves?
Yeah. So one of the common I always get is like, if you get thrown off by a question, right? How do I manage the nerves? Like, and one of the key things is like, first of all, you have to stay present in the interview. So meaning you don't want to be analyzing your own answers or criticizing yourself. You just have to keep moving forward. So have like a mantra, take a moment to breathe, right? One common thing I tell my clients is just pause and breathe.
Yeah.
Silence is okay in an interview. It actually showcases that you're being thoughtful and considerate versus having to jump into an answer right away. Okay, so that is key. The best thing you can do in nerves is honestly, it's take a moment of silence, of pausing and breathe. Okay, have a mantra. Like I actually love sending my clients like these positive affirmations. Like one of them I did recently was, I aced the interview by speaking with assertiveness, confidence, and enthusiasm.
Assertiveness, confidence, and enthusiasm. ACE acronym. Yeah,
love it. ACE acronym.
Love it.
Right?
Love it.
And I would create these phone screen, what do you call it? Like wallpapers for to send it to them. Put this on your phone. I just created one for a client, like own your style, own your greatness to shine. And then they put it on their phone. They literally do, like to remind themselves to own your greatness to shine.
That's so great. I love that. You are really good with acronyms. Like you have a lot of different acronyms. I love it. Acronyms are very memorable. So that's awesome. Was there anything else we should know about managing our nerves?
Managing nerves. What else? Those are the key ones, I would say. What else? Let me think here. I think that's about it. One thing I do want to talk about is the on-camera presence. Because I've been doing tons of video interviews. So a few tips. So one is look at the camera when you're speaking. First, look at the screen. Okay. It just shows more connection, more rapport as well. So that's number one. Number two is that first impression, right? Studies show it takes only 7 seconds to form that first impression. So how you show up, your background and all that will make a difference as well. So having that great background. I actually recently just met someone, I'm a new client. It was actually her house, but it looked like the IKEA style of background, but because she had such good lighting that it looked like an office space. I was like, that's really cool. But it was so memorable that I had to comment about it. I was like, is that an actual background or is that a fake background or is that your actual place there?
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. So that makes a difference. I had a client actually who was preparing for an interview for Shopify, and he set up his background where it had, because he was a huge basketball fan, so he had something that set up with that, and just something that represented him. So it's a great conversation starter as well. The other is positioning. So in terms of your distance from the camera, you want to, I would say, ideally take up about 1/3 of the space. Okay, of that, and ideally if having body language, the body language is so important, right? So actually showcasing hands is good because it shows more dynamicness there. I'll do a little trick here. Like if you think of, I just do like this.
Oh, where'd you go?
I look smaller, right?
You do.
And so that presence or that confidence is going to be lacking. But if I bring it back up, and be a little closer as well, you feel more connected. Right?
Yeah.
So that's something also to test out as well. I usually recommend about a foot away from your laptop. And if you're using a laptop, raise your laptop with a few books or shoebox so that you are at the eye level. A lot of times I see people have it at, what do you call it? They're looking down at their camera. But if you raise it up to the eye level, it just, you're going to have better posture as well.
That's good. That's great.
So these are little techniques that actually make a huge difference in terms of your confidence and persuasion.
Love them. Thank you for those. They're subtle, but they are high impact. So yes, but also very easy to implement, which is nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So easy to implement. Yeah. So I'm curious what people's key learnings are from our chat today.
I'd love to hear that. My keyboard is delayed. In any case, please tell us in the chat what your key learnings have been. Would love to hear them. Before we get to those, I just really quickly want to ask you, are you okay for time? Because we're going to go slightly over. Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. So
I just kids out.
I just really quickly want to ask you about wrapping up an interview with when we as interviewees are given the opportunity to ask our own questions. What do you think are really great and insightful questions to actually ask at that time?
Yeah. So first of all, don't ask how well did you do in the interview. That's awkward. Okay. Don't ask that. Okay, so don't ask that. What I usually recommend is, first of all, is think about what's important to you, right? So by looking at what's important to you, it will also help you frame your question. So for example, if it's important to you that you're looking for a great boss, you probably want to get to know more about the boss, of like what they're like, what their expectations are, right? So usually I want to suggest to ask some sort of question about the interviewer. I call it the ROI, the role, organization, and the interviewer. So you want to learn more about the role itself in terms of what does success look like, what are the challenges, what are the expectations. The organization, you learn more about the business, like what are the strategic priorities, what are the challenges as well, or you want to learn more about the team as well, the team dynamics are there. And then, so we've got role, organization, interviewer. And then you want to ask the interviewer of either about their experience working here, what's their vision, what their expectations, what they're looking for an ideal candidate. I have a client who loves asking this question at the end, is there anything about my candidacy that you have concerns that I could clarify further?
Okay.
He likes asking that. So it's totally up to you, but that is also a great way to clarify anything else that they may be concerned of that you can still build your case or follow in an email.
Right. That's a great point. Again, helping them make their own notes, their own case for presenting you as a potential person for the role.
Yes. Honestly, if you know that there is a concern with a certain area, you need to address it. Don't hide it. Like, for example, if you have like a hobby career, you have to address it.
Yes.
You have to talk about it. Don't hide from it. Okay. Just talk about it.
Good call. I mean, they're going to notice it anyway. So you might as well call it the elephant in the room, right?
Yep.
Those are great suggestions for questions, because I think a lot of us, we think we know everything we need to know, or we're too nervous to ask some questions, so we don't use that opportunity to our advantage. And there is a lot of advantage in that time period in the interview. So those are great suggestions. Thank you. Speaking of expectation questions, Ramesa is asking, as a new grad, how do you answer salary expectation questions?
Ooh, I feel like it's going to be another webinar.
Kamara. Oh boy. Okay.
Salary is a hot topic. We need another webinar for this. It's one of my popular topics.
Okay.
As a new grad, to be honest, the one thing I talk about is you got to assess your salary, your negotiation power, right? If you're a new grad, most likely you don't have much negotiation power. So really it's for you to understand like what is the industry standard there. You can do some research on that. Right. I'm not sure what field you're in there, but if I'm thinking like a business new grad, anywhere it could be from that, $45,000 to $60,000 is like, the range there as an entry level role as an example. But at the end of the day, you want to basically answer that you want to be paid at a fair market rate. Okay? That's what it is. If you are someone more senior, I mean, this is a whole other, we need to have another talk on this. It's a whole different ballgame. I have so many scenarios. If you're at the executive level, it's a totally different ballgame, what I've seen. So to me, this is what I always talk about. You got to know what your minimum, what your range, Okay. Never give your minimum. You got to know your range. You ought to do your research. Okay. Know what the market value is. Okay. And I do know from my experiences, whenever you are looking to make a change into a different industry or a different company, usually people will get some sort of a raise there. Okay. Most of my clients I've worked with, I've seen more like 5-figure increases. Okay? Like most of the clients I work with, like I'm talking like 20,000 or more.
Right.
And to me, the way I look at it, in order to get a higher salary raise, you need to elevate your brand, your communications, and your confidence in what you have to offer. Simple as that. Okay? If you want to command that higher salary there, you have to sell yourself.
Makes sense. Upgrade your product.
It is. Upgrade the product. What you can deliver, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've seen some really crazy stuff. Actually, I'll share a story. This is a great one. Like, I have a client that was in Winnipeg. She was new to Canada. I don't know if there's anyone here like new to Canada. And she said she wished she found me 2 years ago. And within 3 months of working together, it wasn't just an interview, but she upgraded her entire brand of her LinkedIn profile, her resume. Looked like it was professionally written. Her elevator pitch, her approach to networking. She was reaching out to high, like executive level people as well. And she was in sales. And within 3 months, she got an offer. She doubled her salary.
Wow.
Life-changing. Life-changing. But because it's like literally upgrading and everything. Like she did everything that I guided her to do. And it just made a huge difference, like huge difference of how she's perceived in terms of what she has to offer.
Such a great success story. Personal branding really cannot be underestimated, or should not be underestimated, I should say. Yeah.
That could be another talk.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? Before I let you go, just wanted to wrap up with asking you, what are some really great questions to ask during an informational interview?
Yeah, so networking. So informational interviews depend on what the purpose is, but usually it's for you to learn more about the company, the industry, the role itself, right? Or if you're looking to make a career change, right? So there are different types of questions, but usually I would say you want to ask questions about the person's career path, right? Their background experience, like what has led them to there and how they made certain decisions.
Nice.
You want to maybe ask questions about trends and insights about the industry, right? About the profession, like how it's evolving. You could ask questions about the hiring process requirements of what's it like to get a foot in the door in here to understand that, so you know how to better sell yourself. And then you want to ask for advice. Like if you are looking to make that change, like what advice do you have for me, right? There's so many different versions, but those are usually the categories of type of questions that you want to ask if you're trying to assess the fit. If you're trying to get a foot in the door in that certain industry, your goal is not to ask people for a job. Your goal is to ask them to build the rapport and trust that they want to help you further. Okay, that's your goal, is to further that relationship, or that they can refer you to other people to learn more.
Yes.
Okay? That's really, really key there. So yeah, that's another huge, like networking. I love this topic. It's such a huge one. I would say from my experience, a lot of times when I talk to clients, it's something that they're most afraid of is networking or conducting informational interviews. And from my experience, most people don't do enough of them. Don't do enough. I always challenge people to do at least have a list of 100 people to reach out to.
Oh,
100.
wow.
100. Yes.
Okay.
Because you need that to have that momentum, right? You probably only get 20-30% of people respond back, and only about half of them are willing to have that conversation with you, and another half are willing to help you. So that leaves only about a dozen people. So when people tell me that they've only reached out to a handful of people, I tell them it's not enough.
Yeah.
You have to do more, right? That's part of like sales, like building the funnel as well. And I know this from being a recruiter. In order for me to fill a role, usually I need to look at a few thousand profiles to identify like my top, let's say 50 or 100 people to reach out to. Right. And from there, I probably only get 30% people respond, depending on obviously company.
Right.
And then present like my top 5 to the employer. So I know from experience that I need to get to that volume as well to be able to find that one. And so I look at it as a job seeker as well. Like you need to also reach out to other people to have enough meaningful conversations to get your foot in the door, right? Especially for those who are looking to make a career change right now into a different industry. It is so, so important because if you don't understand the lingo, if you don't understand what's happening, they're not willing to take a risk on you. Right?
That makes sense.
They're not willing. Yeah. So I had a client many years ago. He was making that pivot from in government as a what do you call it? He was a campaign advisor, like for politician, and he wanted to become a product manager in tech.
Whoa,
very different, right?
Very.
Like, government to tech, and it was so different. And he was just finishing his MBA, and for him to get into that company that he got into, he talked to like over 15 people.
At that one company?
At that one company.
Wow.
I referred him, his friend referred him, my referral referred him, and then HR talked to him. Like it was a series of people that talked to him enough that basically he demonstrated that one, he's really smart. Second, that he really learned about the industry, like in and out to learn about the trends. Third, he really showed that he was so interested that he talked to so many people and basically gave the hiring manager enough confidence that he's going to be able to figure it out, even though he has no product manager experience.
Right. Yeah. Wow. That's a lot, but you know, we have to invest time and energy into our job search, and that's one of the most important ways.
It is so important, networking. Oh my gosh, so many stories. I had a new grad who wanted to go to investment banking, and he did not graduate from a top business school. So he did not obviously get as much opportunities to get into investment banking. He reached out to over 200 people in the industry.
Wow. And
at the end, he got into Credit Suisse.
Oh, good for him.
One at the top. Yeah, one on top after talking to 200 people. And then he thanked everyone that he talked to along the way after he got the offer.
Oh, that's so smart. That's so smart.
So he's basically, as a new grad, he started off his career strong already by already having 200 new connections in the industry. I was like, you gotta go thank all these people.
Yeah, good thing you told him that. Because that gratitude, super important. That follow-up, super important. Staying top of mind.
Super important. A year and a half later, like he moved on to another great company in investment banking.
That's awesome. Good for him. Good
right?
for him. Yeah.
Seems impossible, but like, are you willing to go above and beyond? Are you willing to do the work?
Yeah.
Even when you keep getting the no's.
Yeah. Doing the work to get the work, really. So man, that's a great story. Good for him. So speaking of networking, you have a networking webinar coming up. On November 5th, I think the date shifted, right? Yeah. It's November 5th now?
Yeah, it's November 5th from 11 to 12:30. It's called one of my most popular webinars I did back in May on how to network to get work, where I will walk you through essentially how to develop a networking strategy, an effective networking strategy for your job search. And I'll talk about some principles on how to network with people effectively and how to network effectively on LinkedIn as well.
Oh, super valuable. That sounds like a can't miss webinar. So I've linked that in the description below. So make sure you go ahead and sign up for that. November 5th, I got to check my calendar. If I'm free, I'm attending that too. Because I always be better at networking. Share with others. It's one of my most popular webinars that I deliver. Everybody, get your friends going as well. Everybody can benefit from that. So I just wanted to share some of the key learnings that the audience shared. So being confident in how you appear on screen, great ideas and advice. Be positive and know your worth. Prepare your stories in advance and get to the point. Don't forget to have a good conclusion about lessons learned. That conclusion part is huge. And finally, it's reassuring to know that the big questions are easier to answer than previously imagined. So that's good. So you gave the audience a lot of reassurance and confidence that they can tackle those questions that may seem like a mystery or like trick questions. And Ramisa said, major learning points: build your case with specific steps, pivot the perspective of your experience to fit the role, and confidence. Yes, I love this. The most important thing. So that is great. Thank you so much, Diana, for spending so much time with us. Wow. We're almost at an hour and 15 minutes. So really
I like appreciate challenges. Can I give a challenge to my audience here?
Sure.
So for those who want to really amp up or elevate your interviews, I want you to start literally go find like the top 10 questions you want to practice, jot down your answers, and I want you to start recording yourself. Record yourself on camera. Okay, because one thing we haven't touched on right now is there's the video count of interviews, but there's also these one-way interviews. And from my experience, for my clients who are going through it, most people find it awkward and they record themselves at least 10 times to get it like where they feel really good about it. So if you are in that, you run an elevator game, go record yourself.
That's such a great challenge. Those recorded interviews or the one-way interviews, that's such great advice, because I've been hearing so much on my 5th try they locked me out. Like, you only get so many tries on those one-way interviews, so do the practice beforehand. Have the dress rehearsal beforehand. Don't use the real life thing as the rehearsal.
My client, when I was practicing the other day, her headset battery died. And I was like, thank God this was with me.
Yeah, no kidding.
I was like, thank God you know it.
Oh, man. That'd be so nerve-wracking.
Right?
Yeah.
When you realize like your voice was not recording.
Yeah, just your oh, man. Thank God she knew that was a possibility. And I'm sure right after your coaching session, she promptly charged that thing up.
Totally, right?
Oh,
so yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I hope this was helpful. This was so much fun talking with you. Like, I really enjoyed it. It's a great conversation and get some ideas out. And it's interview. It's a conversation, but at the same time, you need to promote yourself. That's what it really is at the end of the day. And the more you practice it, the better you're going to get at, and you're able to just anticipate questions better as you do more and more.
That's so great, and wonderful parting words of wisdom. And thank you so much for joining us today. I know the audience got tons out of this. We've had very few people in and out of the live stream. So for 75 minutes, that's really good. So I'm really pleased to hear that. That means that they were just like soaking up everything you had to offer. So if you want to follow Diana, make sure that you follow her or connect with her on, maybe you're at your max connections now. So follow you on LinkedIn. You're maxed out? Okay, so follow you. Oh, not yet. Oh, sorry. So connect with you on LinkedIn. Definitely subscribe to Diana's YouTube channel. Sign up for her webinar. And she's got many webinars coming up, and so keep tabs there as well. You have a great email newsletter, so I'm seeing all of your different events too. So make sure you're signing up for that. All of that information is in the description of this video. Check it out. Thank you so much, Diana. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much, everyone. I love the engagement today as well. If you're new to my work, check out my website. I have this free opt-in where you can get 10 days of 10 days of job search strategies. I've had a lot of people who've gone through it and found it really helpful, of like 10 strategies you can do to jumpstart the job search.
Amazing. You got snap that up, guys. That's going to be super helpful. Well, thank you so much for that. And you can find Diana through the several links that are in the description. So thanks so much for joining us on a Saturday. Thanks everybody for joining us, and have a great rest of the weekend. Take care.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.